So this is a continuation of the last episode, which is a conversation that I'm having with Landon Bennet about sales, learning about managing or finding and closing on larger SaaS customers and larger SaaS deals. So if you didn't listen to the first part, go back and listen to that so that this one makes sense. But either way, I hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to get right into it. No, this is.
But
this
I mean, the main
awesome.
thing is like you need to ask a lot of questions, get as much information as possible every time. It's like all you should be doing is asking questions. Like the whole call should be questions. And every question they answer, there should be like a question after the answer to like make sure that you explicitly know everything about everything, and like keep good notes of all this stuff, and record the conversations if you can, I guess. But yeah, like I think those are the big things. Finding that compelling event for them to switch, really asking and seeing if they'll, if you can get a commitment from them now, and maybe that's just being honest about like, hey, if I'm gonna prioritize and take a little bit of a risk here, like it'd be great if you guys could kind of commit and move forward, and like we start working on this stuff, because it's looking like it's only going to take me like, a couple weeks to get this stuff out the door. So it'd be great, like, to get that commitment moving forward, even if it's on a monthly, even if it's
Right.
month to month, you could go that route. You could even, like, another option, which is kind of risky, is you could do like a money back guarantee. So at least you get, it's like,
okay.
So you get them to move forward, whether it's monthly or annually, with like a 30-day like out, essentially, to give you, they put their money where their mouth is, they've committed, and now you can like build you feel a little bit better about like building the features or whatever, that you can execute on that. And it gives them a little bit more, like a de-risk for them, like moving forward now, because they can get out if you don't execute on what you said. So I think that's, again, like I wouldn't start with that, but I try the other stuff first.
Something, yeah.
Like that's like another
keep that up my
kind
sleeve.
of like thing to throw in there if you have to. But yeah, so I think those are some of the options.
Awesome.
This is fun. I feel like I'm like getting back into the sales world, where I'm like training somebody on what they should do. And it's like helping me remember what the heck I used to focus on.
Man, I think this is honestly, like, to me, this is what bootstrap companies should be focusing on. Like, but not just like the building in public and like having people kind of slowly trickle in, like it just go for, like, especially for people that want to stay small. I think that the bigger deals like this,
deals building public on Twitter, like it's just not going to happen. A lot of the bigger deal, like that's not where those people are. Like they're not. All the people that are on Twitter seeing that stuff are like the same people as us, right? They're like other,
exactly.
like indie kind of like bootstrappers and startup people. And these bigger companies, especially like companies you're mentioning that are sort of like more like old school, like kind of niche type stuff, like they probably don't even have Twitter accounts. Like they're not looking at that. And I think, yeah, I mean, there's just a totally different, like the big stuff, like it takes a lot more than just, going through that route, like building in public. How do they find you?
Google. Yeah. Like I tried Google.
That's where the bigger companies go. They go to Google. Like that, honestly, like that's where it's like Facebook and Google and these like forums like Reddit, Quora, like that's where which is just that's just like a subset of Google, because usually it's just Google, right? Like that's what they're going to do. They're going to Google some question, like how do I do whatever, or they're going to Google something, and they're either going to find stuff like straight off of that Google search, or like the actual like companies, or they're going to find these like Quora, Reddit pages where other people ask similar questions, and like you need to be in those places because that's where they're going to find it. But yeah, we don't do that much on Twitter. And the same thing in my last company, like we were selling to that's how I know about like some of these like publishers, because we we sold to publishers at Rigor, which is the last company that we were at. And
Okay. Yeah.
we sold a big publisher, like, Condé Nast, New York Times, CNN, like all these types of companies. And they were either finding out about us through well, for us, it was mostly finding out through like us, like just emailing them forever, like just emailing,
Okay.
like account-based, sales, account-based marketing.
I don't have a ton going on, but I know you always have a ton going on, so I
I
don't
don't
want to
have that.
take.
I don't have that much today. I have a lot of more of like project-based stuff, which is good,
Okay.
but no other. I try to not do a lot of calls, but they're coming because we're actually in the process of trying to hire well, I'm calling the role customer operations manager, which would basically be like still wearing a lot of hats, but all customer oriented. So from support to like knowledge base stuff to collections, managing customer health, like overages, like just basically everything to do with like current customers, onboarding. And then I'm just going to move 100% full time. Well, no, not full time, but like 70% of my time will just be sales, like outbound, inbound, like trials, everything sales. And then the other 30% will be like product. And then, yeah, like I'm just going to go like I'm going hard, trying to just like see if I can, see if we can get this thing to, you know, get this thing to millions in revenue. We're not going to do that without having someone like fully dedicated to sales. So for now, that'll be me. And then we'll see if we need to hire a salesperson at some point, but it'll be good. Like, so I'm like trying to hire that for that role. And we may hire another engineer at some point this year as well, if we can find somebody. But yeah, trying to like take it like level, take it to the next. We're hitting that like
Yeah.
scaling kind of like wall. We're hitting like the wall where it's like, if we, kind of getting to the point where like we can't just do this with a couple people. Like if we want to take it to the next level, we've got to make some hires and like get some like core focus on certain areas of the business. Like I can't just, how it is. Like you run around and you're doing like, oh, I'm answering the support
Bookkeeping and
question, and then I'm jumping over here because I got to do this tax thing, and then I'm jumping over here because I got to write this blog. Oh wait, I'm halfway through the blog and more support questions. I got to answer these support questions, and then I'm back over here. Oh, I got this deal I got to work on. I got to send out this contract. Oh wait, another support question. It's like all day. That's what you're doing.
yeah, and then family. Obviously, right now
Yeah,
with
and then the
working from
baby
home,
runs in
so
the
that
room,
cuts
and you're
in.
like, oh, I got to be a good dad. I can't focus on this stuff. Oh, I'm gonna hang out with my baby for a little bit. All right, I'm a good dad. Then you look back and you're like, oh crap, I don't remember anything I was doing. So I gotta like regroup here and like figure out what all these tabs are on here. And that's what every day is like. And at some point, you get to some level of like number of customers or like revenue or something where it's just like, well, I'm like hurting the company now. Like I'm dropping the ball. Like when you start dropping the ball on either like, I just I noticed something the other day on the intercom message we send out, like the main like welcome message in the app in AdReform. Like there's a link to a demo video, which is like pretty important if you want to like, that's like one of the key things to like getting going. And I was showing a candidate. Like the onboarding and like kind of like what it looks like and everything. And I clicked on the demo video, and sure enough, 404, the dreaded 404. And I'm like, first of all, to the candidate, I was like, well, this is exactly why I'm hiring for this role. Because I should never, like, this should be known immediately. Like, we should know this. And I'm just not on top of everything all the time. And then I'm like, shit, like, what the heck? What happened? Like, how long has that been a 404? That's like a pretty big deal. So, anyways, yeah, I fixed it like that day. But like, it's just little things like that. You start dropping the ball. I've dropped the ball on like little like sales things, like forgetting to follow up because of just all this stuff, and like or not reaching out to someone quickly enough, like a new lead when they reply or something. Like you just can't. You're just not optimizing what you could be doing if you're doing that. And I'm just doing too many things, so I can't. Yeah, I just gotta
Yeah.
focus on I figure I can do like I feel good about the customer operations stuff, but I think I do a decent job at it if I was doing it full time. But my natural like what I know and what my experience is on the sales side, I think that's where I can help the company the most. So
Right.
Gonna
Yeah.
try to like offload the other things and just like focus on sales. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. It'll either be a big, nothing will happen, or doing like sales and going outbound, will have like a big effect on the business, since we haven't done that and it's just been neglected for a long time. So I'm sure it'll have a good effect, but
That's
I
super
got to find
exciting.
somebody
Yeah.
first. So that's going to be,
Yeah. Right.
that's the hard part, but yeah.
Like, is that like in a common role, like, or is it kind of like customer support slash, like, how are you finding those candidates?
It's not a common role, I would say. I mean, because normally it's like you're either your customer support, right? You're like a client success person. This is going to be like a hybrid of like that plus like just that is, there's probably not enough of that for that to be like a full-time role. But when you take into consideration, like, a lot of times, like at these bigger companies, there's a full-time role for all these customer success people. There's a full-time role for someone that manages like the knowledge base and makes it and optimizes and makes it better. It keeps it fresh. There's a full-time role for collection. Like you have financial, you have the finance team and they're like doing collections when, for whatever reason, the money doesn't come in, or credit cards, whatever, right? Like, and then there's like full-time people who are kind of keeping track of like just customer, like account managers more so, right? Like overages and like trying to get upgrades and different things. Those are all like full-time roles, and there's like teams. And so this would be like all of those things on a smaller
Yeah.
scale
Yeah.
because we're smaller, but for now it would be all of those things. We also have like customer support folks and like some services folks like in the Philippines. So
Right.
we
Yeah.
have a team there, and I haven't figured out how that, like, if I will still kind of like manage that team. Well, we have someone that sort of manages. We have someone on that team that is the lead that like manages that team, and they do a great job. But I sort of like so I'll like work with her. I'm like her manager. So I don't know if this new person would be her manager, and I would just check in with them, or if like I'll still do that. But so that could be like another piece of the role as well. So there's like
Right.
a lot. I just need someone to like hand off all customer related stuff to. And like just if anything is like really bad or like really like important, you can like funnel that up to me just for like sign off or whatever. But like everything else, like you handle, and I never have to do it again. I am a little scared though, because then I won't know what's going on as much.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
but yeah, it's just too much. Like it's just a lot of, it's too distracting. It's like sales and customer support are the most like, not distracting, but like real time. So they're not projects. So whatever you're doing, like you gotta stop what you're doing and like go do that thing, kind of like relatively real time or like quickly. So you don't really like, you can't just kind of like do it async. It's not really the same with sales. Like if you want to close deals, you can't be just like really kind of doing it like, well, you could do it async, but like you kind of have to do things quickly if you want to close deals and you want to keep them on a timetable. So it like I can't do both anymore. So I gotta move off of that. But yeah, it's fun to like hopefully be expanding it and like really kind of,
Yeah.
for a while there, AdReform was kind of, not giving it enough time, like a lot of time. It's been fun to like go all in on it and like just give it all of our time. Now that like we've done that before, but like we did that like in the beginning when we like weren't, now we have like, serious revenue, and then like we have a lot of customers, and it's much easier to do that now, and you're more excited to do it when you're like, not, oh my god, where am I going to get the next paycheck, like
Yeah.
where am I going to get just a little bit of money, like so we can, we're not going to go out of business kind of thing, like when like in the very beginning, which is probably where you're
Exactly where I'm
you're
at.
like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like, we've all been there.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Well,
I mean,
so
you're past that. You're past that stuff. Like I'm talking about when you're like trying to get your first couple customers and you don't have any revenue, and you're just like, shit. Like you're like 3 months into it, and you're like, I thought this would go better. Everybody on Twitter says this goes better. Like they're like they got to like $1 million in like 5 months. Like what's going on right now?
oh
Yeah.
man.
So yeah, those are
Yeah.
the tough days.
yeah, it's still like until I'm at like what's the latest term is like default alive, I guess. Things are things are still pretty
Well,
heavy, but
if you can land this
yeah.
deal, you'd be pretty much done. Like not done, but like, but yeah, I'd push for that. The fact that they already have an annual contract in place is a really good sign that you can probably get the same. So I would really try to push for annual and not, at some point, like you want to get anything you can get to like at least start working on these, features and stuff. But I would really try to get that annual because that'll completely change your business and your life to get that. Like if you get a deal, I mean, even if you got a 10K, you got a 10K deal, I mean, you got a 5K deal, like that's going to change your business significantly. Like if you get 5K deal up front, that's going to change your business significantly because you don't have to worry about the money side for at least 12 months. Like and that gives you just space to like work and not worry and like stress over stuff. So that'll be huge.
Yeah, thanks. This is going to be really helpful. I'm like writing down notes, so I'll also be able to listen to this over and over again. So, but yeah, I think this is huge, and I'd also like to like it'd be cool to do another conversation at some point about like how you guys first kind of identified the ad ops as like that ad ops industry as like there's room here for like how you identify these type of customers and like go after them. Cause like I'm as like, indie makers, indie hackers, like we're just like not like, and we were just talking about this about like the people that are on Twitter that are building in public and stuff, like that's all cool and everything. But if you want to like grow a like, if you want to build a successful business, that's not the efficient way to do it. Like there's like larger deals that you can go after, and just like one or two of these, like we're saying, this is going to completely change my business. If I had been going after this kind of stuff at the very beginning, if I had known where to look and how to like move a process like this along and the questions to ask and stuff, like it's just a different game. Like it's a totally different world.
Yeah. You just have to look at like, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. Like looking where there's already like communities of groups of people, right? So like Reddit communities and things like that. Like in AdOps, there's a subreddit like AdOps. I think it's just AdOps, and
Oh,
it's very active. It's not huge, right? It's not going to like garner the attention of like the
right.
marketing subreddit, right? Like marketers or whatever. Like there's probably like hundreds of thousands of people. So it's smaller than that, but it's very active. They also like that they're buying things. I mean, we at Rigor we sold to publishers and sometimes there was ad ops like VPs of ad ops that were like involved in using the product, and we knew that
Okay.
they were paying for the product. So like we knew that they were paying that kind of money for something. So like if you know that a certain group in a company like there's a whole business unit in the company for like that, like there's a segment, right? Like there's like ad ops people or marketers or like whatever, and they're paying for things. It may not be your thing, but they're paying for other things and they're paying like significant, hundreds of thousands of dollars. They have budgets, so they'll pay for things. So now you just have to figure out what problems they have, or sorry, you have to figure out the biggest problems that they have,
Right. Right.
not just a problem. So and you may not work like some of the bigger problems may seem like I can't solve that problem, but like let's look at the list of like the biggest problems. Like I think I said this on your podcast before, but like with AdReform, we had a completely different idea of what we're gonna do, and the first thing we did in the business, like before we wrote a line of code or did anything, is I cold emailed and cold LinkedIn a bunch of people in the ad tech industry, publishers, agencies, and mostly people in this like ad ops space. And I cold emailed them with my idea of like what we were thinking about building. And that like, I would just love to meet with you to get your feedback. So we went to New York and met with like 18 companies and like 18, people at companies. And we talked about our idea, but we also then just asked, like, what are your biggest problems? What are your team's biggest problems? And turns out, like, what we are actually now doing were the things that were coming up in those conversations. And we felt that our idea felt really hard compared to some of the things that they mentioned. We were like, I think we could get to $1 in revenue faster with these other things,
Okay.
the big
Yeah.
problems that they have, and they don't seem to have a solution to it. So we tried that. Because another thing too is, like, if you want to take on this big problem, and, like, again, you're gonna, like, hopefully you're gonna ask people, like, will they pay for that, or are they already paying for that? Like, you have to, like, verify that. Now,
Yeah.
if they just tell you they'll pay for it, that's not really, it's not the greatest, like, you still don't know. So you might as well work on something you can get out quickly, so that at least you'll know when you get it
Right.
out that they were, like, full of shit or not. Or if you're not on the right track, like, maybe you're just a little bit off, or, like, so, like, we felt the thing we wanted to build, our original idea, was difficult and was going to take a long time to get right. So there was a lot of risk in that, especially being bootstrapped. Like, we need to get to revenue quickly and see progress quickly. So then, like, we were like, we just felt that these other problems they were mentioning, like, we can get something up and running probably in like a month. And at least if we get that going in a month and we get that to them and they're like, they were full of crap and, like, they won't pay for it, at least we'll know in a month.
Right.
Like, it's not like we're going to wait. A lot of people do, they just build for 6 months. They build for a year, even. Like, if you raise a bunch of money, you can kind of do that. But if you're not raising money, like, you need to get to answers quickly. Like, that's all. Even if the answer is no, or, like, you're on the wrong path, you need to get to that answer as quickly as possible, because you don't have that much time and financial flexibility to not, like, you got to get there quick. So that's why we kind of chose to go with these other ideas, solve these other problems. We didn't hit the nail on the head right away. Like, we kind of scuffled around and, like, found a little progress, a little bit of traction, but not enough to, like, support a real business yet. And just kept trying to iterate and find, and then finally kind of found our lane, and then just have kind of gone from there. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of that's sort of how you got to find where the money's at. It's really hard to find, they talk about, like, starting, what do you call it? Like, creating a market or creating, like, a category. It's so hard to do that. Really, really hard to do that. A lot of times it takes money to do that. Like, that's like Terminus, my wife's old company, or their claim to fame is, like, they started the ABM market. Like, they kind of created a category, and, like, they raised a lot of money, and they used that money to create, like, a separate business unit within the company that strictly focused on creating a category and had nothing to do with Terminus.
Wow.
So they put on conferences called Flip the Funnel. So their ABM's idea is that you flip this, like, funnel on its head, and, like, it's the opposite approach of, like,
Right. Account-based management, is it?
Account-based marketing.
Marketing, right?
So instead
Okay.
of focusing on leads, you focus on accounts. That's about all I know. But yeah, you can look up Flip My Funnel or look up account-based marketing. I'll kind of explain it. But so they started a separate entity, still owned by the same company, but it was called Flip My Funnel, and they put on conferences, and it was about, like, creating this category of account-based marketing, and it was really successful in doing that. They would have never been able to do that if they had not raised all that money. But, like, it worked in that sense. So my point is, like, it's really hard to create a category. So if you're thinking you have this, like, new idea that's, like, going to revolutionize this, like, all this, you're going to create this new category, maybe you will, but, like, it's really, really difficult to do that. And if you're bootstrapping, like, you don't have that much time. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, you need to go find where the money's already at. And that doesn't necessarily mean going somewhere where there's already products for that, and, like, they pay for it. It's like, does this business unit within a company, or this, like, role, do they have a budget? Do they pay for things? Do they pay for technology? If the answer is yes, then there's probably a market there. They have problems. There's no way they have other problems, right? Like, they have challenges. So if you can solve one of their biggest problems, you can probably get some of that budget. So yeah, at least that's what I see in my
Yeah, exactly. That's what's working for you
experience.
guys.
But yeah, I mean, you could also just go do the same thing you're doing. That's basically what we did at Rigor. Is there was already a big market for the product that we built, and we took a slightly different approach in certain situations or like in certain ways. And we were you were easier to use. That was like our play, was that we were, for those that don't know, Rigor was in the application performance monitoring space. I don't even know if we're like, am I supposed to be talking like we're on a podcast?
No, yeah, that's great.
APMs monitoring. So like think New Relic, Dynatrace, like there's a bunch of big companies, tons of them. And it wasn't anything revolutionary that we were building, but there was a huge market for it. Multiple companies that were worth like $1 billion. Like there's money, definitely money there. And what we came in and we came with a different, like, we're simple, even just by like, we don't have as many features. We have 80% of the features you need. And it's just like simpler, more cost effective. And then we did some cool things with our pricing model to make it like different, not necessarily more cost effective, but like different. And that seemed to help. And then it was just like, we got to go rip incumbents out. So it was like very much outbound sales, like emailing, calling, like all that kind of stuff. But we had like everybody used something. Everyone was using something. So like, that in that case, that the market's there. You just have to create a compelling reason why now. And like, we had a bunch of different things there, and it was different with every competitor. Depending on the competitor we go in with, we had different reasons to make it compelling.
Right. Okay.
But it was all about ripping incumbents out and everything. And we had really good churn. Like, it barely ever had churn. So like, if we could just get in, like, we're good. And our average deal size was like 12, like around, I mean, at the time, 1,200 to 1,500 a month kind of thing. And it just grew over time. It wasn't always that. And now it's probably more, they got bought by Splunk. So I'm sure their deal sizes now are like, up close to 6 figures average. But yeah, so I mean, there's different ways to do it. But yeah, you gotta go somewhere where there's people are paying for things, and then either solve the same problems in different ways, or solve problems that aren't getting solved, that are important problems, or they would rank as like the top problems. I mean, it's an easy question to ask. Like, we would just ask, like, I mean, what are your biggest problems? Like, what are the biggest challenges that you have? What are the biggest time sucks that are super annoying? Like, is there anything that comes to mind? The biggest problems will come to mind. They won't really have to think about them long. They probably talk about them in like every day or every meeting.
Yeah,
so like,
right.
that's where it was like, a lot of people would bring up like screenshots or ad QA or like whatever. They're like, it's so like tedious, takes so much time, like it's manual, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of where it came from. I mean, I remember on the trip, we literally were like, we had a totally different idea of a business. We're literally like out one night drinking on like the last day of the trip, and we're just like, I think we should do this other stuff that they were talking about. like I think we're just gonna like change course, because like that seems easier to take on and like try to get something out the door. So we just decided to go that route.
And yeah, instead of guessing and and just finding out like a year later whether or not, that's.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of it's tough. Like, with other products that we've built, you're in really competitive spaces, and maybe you don't have you can't find that like real kind of compelling reason why they should use you versus someone else, or why they should switch to you or whatever. It's just, I mean, I could talk about this particular topic is interesting, but we could probably talk about all the different, there's so many different scenarios of like, what you can kind of look for, like even like with Rigor, instead of like going in and like competing against somebody for that deal, we never were doing that. Like, very rarely. It was like incumbent. So think this company's been using this product for years and years, and these are like super old school technology platforms that they're using. So like, what's going to convince them to move? It's probably something like, simple, like a new UI, like something that's very simple. Like, those are the kind of compelling things they're going to get them to switch, because they're using this old clunky software for the past 5 years that they hate, and saving them money, because that company is probably, since they've been working with them for 5 years, they've been getting complacent, probably raising the pricing, been purchased by private equity and they've raised the pricing. Like, that's the kind of stuff we were running into. So it's like, how can we save these companies money and give them something easier to use, even if it doesn't have all the features that this company has that's been around for a million years. So that was kind of the game plan. Whether it was the best game plan or not, I don't know, but it worked to some extent.
It works, yeah.
It worked to some extent. We grew it, to multiple millions and sold to Splunk, but yeah.
That's the art. Like that's the part where it's like I've always felt like going into a bigger market like that where there is lots of competition, if I can figure it out, it just seems like so much easier. It's like obviously maybe ease isn't the right word, but it's like, yeah, it's like, cause then if I ever do have to do this again, it's like, I just go find a market that's like clearly working. There's lots of competitors and just go do what I've learned. And that seems repeatable. Whereas like creating a new category or like,
yeah, it's still hard. Like, I don't know how there's just so many different situations where you see kind of both sides where it like doesn't work or it does work. But like, I mean, I'm beyond, like, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name right now, but the guy that started Calendly competitor fairly recently, like within the last year. What is it called?
Oh man, now I don't know. Savvy Cal.
Savvy Cal, yeah. When he started that, I thought that was
Eric Reimer.
Yeah, I was like, that's not, why would you do that? Because again, that's a different scenario than what I just talked about, right? You're going up against a product that's relatively new. People tend to like, some people don't, right? But people tend to like, it's pretty new. They have like pretty good like design. I know they have a bunch of designers there because I literally worked in their office. They got a lot of designers. They're like, it's like a pretty like simple kind of clean tool. It's not like it's like, so you're coming in like you really got to find some. I mean, I just don't. He obviously has found some different things that make it compelling, and it's worked. I mean, from what I hear, like it's working, and he's like building a nice little business. But like, I just wouldn't have thought that would work because of that. Because Calendly's not this big clunky like old school company. Like they're still like going after it, and like I just like they're gonna get crushed. But it's also like if you're one person, it doesn't matter if you get crushed. He's getting crushed by Calendly. Like they're crushing him. But like from their view, right? Like Calendly's I don't remember what, they're like 70 million revenue or something. I'm sure he's not anywhere near that, right? He's probably not. I don't think I have no idea, but like I don't think he's dollars in revenue. So like, I mean, if you look at it from the big picture, he is getting crushed. But when you're a one-person company, it doesn't matter if you get crushed to that extent. Like as long as you can build, he probably would be able to build like a multi-million-dollar business and get crushed at the same time. Like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But yeah, so it's cool to see that happen and like gives a different perspective on that. But there's just so many situations. It's hard to like. There's no like black or white, simple answers.
Right.
Anyways, I do have to run here in a second because I have no idea what's going on in my business. I have not been paying attention, so I probably need to get in there. And
that
know there's something. But anyways, I will let you go, and just let me know what's going on, and happy to help if I can.
Thank you. Yeah, this is super helpful. Thanks for all the time you spent here, and
it's good to catch up.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Cool, man.
See you, man.
Well, have a good one. We'll talk soon.